Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Foreign Correspondents. I'm Min Sunny with our panel of foreign journalists. Welcome to the show.
Good to be back, thanks.
It's a holiday week here in Korea as we celebrate Chuseok, a major harvest festival. Do you have a similar festival in your respective countries? We'll start with you, Frank.
Well, we have Thanksgiving, and usually we would get together with sort of my extended family, my parents when I was a kid, and some cousins, maybe a dozen or so of us, and I would get scolded for not eating any cranberry sauce, I remember.
I see. What about you, Koichi?
We have same similar to Chuseok, but it's not the official holiday. We just go out and watch full moon, while eating rice cake. That part is similar, yeah.
Right, quite similar to Chuseok here on the Korean peninsula. In his address at the UN General Assembly in New York late September, President Moon Jae-in spoke of a warm welcome to North Korea at next year's PyeongChang Winter Olympics should the reclusive regime choose to attend the sporting event. In this edition of Foreign Correspondents, we take a look at the importance of sports diplomacy.
President Moon Jae-in visited the United States on September 18th to attend the UN General Assembly. Along with his keynote address at the UN General Assembly, there was another important agenda on his schedule: the promotion of the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games.
앞으로 5개월 후 대한민국 평창에서 동계올림픽이 열립니다. 고작 100km를 달리면 한반도 분단과 대결의 상징인 휴전선과 만나는 도시 평창입니다. 평화와 스포츠를 사랑하는 세계인들이 모입니다. 세계 각국의 정상들은 우위와 화합의 인사를 나눌 것입니다.
President Moon met with Thomas Bach, the chairman of the IOC, to request active cooperation.
I see you with many world leaders and the mascots, and I see photos of you spending some time in PyeongChang. This is really a great encouragement.
President Moon also actively engaged in sports diplomacy as an ambassador for the Olympics in PyeongChang, including the unveiling of the PyeongChang Olympic medal in New York.
2018 평창 동계올림픽, 패럴림픽에 여러분을 초대합니다.
On September 21st, however, the French Minister of Sports issued a controversial statement during the promotion of the Games. He stated that France would not attend the PyeongChang Winter Olympics next year if security on the Korean peninsula cannot be guaranteed. In addition to France, Austria and Germany also expressed the possibility of not attending the event. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism immediately met with the French Minister of Sports, and the situation came to an end when France reaffirmed its participation in the Winter Olympic Games next year. President Moon believes if North Korea were to participate in the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games, it would open a door toward peace.
이러한 시점에 남북이 함께 한다면 세계에 화해와 평화의 메시지를 전하는 좋은 계기가 될 것입니다.
The PyeongChang Winter Games is right around the corner, and the panel members of Foreign Correspondents will discuss ways to ease concerns and to see how sports diplomacy can succeed through the upcoming sporting event.
Now, as seen in the report, France has spoken of the possibility of pulling out from the PyeongChang Winter Olympics in light of North Korea's nuclear ambitions. What, in your opinion, are the chances of a country choosing to not partake in the Games because of security concerns here on the peninsula, Frank?
Well, I think it really depends what happens between now and as we move closer to the Olympic Games. Certainly, just in the past week, you've seen things settle down a little bit. You know, if North Korea refrains from any more nuclear and missile tests, and in particular, if North Korea can be convinced to sign the Olympic truce. This is a tradition that was brought back to the Olympic Games or introduced into the Olympic Games in the 9th century, where countries would sign on and say they're not going to disturb anybody, athletes, artisans, or those that just wanted to view the Games, from getting to and from the Games. If North Korea and, of course, other countries around the world that have some difficult relations and conflicts right now can sign on to this truce, I think we'll be fine. And if North Korea, again, doesn't engage in any more, missile tests or nuclear tests between now and then, I think we'll be fine, and we'll see every country that's scheduled to participate.
It would really be great if North Korea would participate in the Games. We don't think that they're likely to do that, considering some of the tensions. But if they participated, that would be a wonderful gesture toward reconciliation. I'm sure that President Moon will be doing whatever he can through his ministers and other contacts to try to tell them, look, send a team there, send teams there. Join us at PyeongChang.
Mm-hmm. Koichi, in your opinion, what are the chances of a North Korean provocation during the Games if they're not attending the sporting event?
I hope it should be small, but thinking about 1988 Seoul Olympic, before Seoul Olympic, they bombed the airplane to disturb Olympics, and I am pretty sure that they can be quite envious on this Olympic game because they don't have that ability to open Olympic game, but South Korea does. So I have a little bit of anxiousness on that. Yeah.
Frank, the decision by France, which of course they again claimed that they would be attending the event, but then there are earlier talks about not attending the event. Do you suppose this would be playing right into the hands of North Korea, perhaps?
I'm not sure. Just to elaborate a little bit on Koichi's remarks, I think North Korea's sort of savvy in terms of its international relations might have improved a little bit, and it would recognize that while there might be double standards in terms of its nuclear development and missile development, in that other countries have those types of military deterrence, but North Korea doesn't, and North Korea feels under threat. You can make whatever type of debate that you want to about that. You can't make this similar debate or about the Olympic Games. And disturbing the Olympic Games is something that's going to, offend every country, including China and Russia, which is kind of providing a little bit of diplomatic cover for North Korea in terms of its, standoff, shall we say, with the United States regarding its nuclear and missile programs. So I would suggest that North Korea might just refrain from any types of provocations, either leading up to the Games or during the Games themselves. I certainly would hope so.
Of course, China and Russia are huge participants in the Games. So the fact that they think so highly of the Games. But as Koichi pointed out, there was a terrible episode in 1988 when a plane was bombed. I'm not expecting North Korea to carry out any provocation of that sort. But I think we might well have some missile tests, perhaps. That kind of provocation I think they're capable of. I don't think they're going to duplicate the terrible 1988 tragedy. And
I really don't think, any athletes at the Games should feel any security risk vis-a-vis North Korea. And I think countries should be, doing their risk analysis coolly and understand that the chances of a conflict on the Korean Peninsula during the period of the Olympic Games are really quite slim.
Now, fortunately, North Korea's International Olympic Committee member Chang Won drew a distinct line between politics and the upcoming Winter Games, thus raising hopes that North Korea might attend the sporting event. What are the chances, Koichi, of such a scenario?
Well, also, Mr. Chang Won said that if they can attend the Olympics or not. It's about if their contestants pass the plenary for the Olympics. So I heard that there are still chance for them to pass the tests. Yeah, we hope for that. And also I heard that IOC is asking North Korea to send technical judge.
And if they do decide to participate, Frank, how should we interpret that decision?
I think that, you got to interpret that positively. I mean, one of the goals of the Moon Jae-in administration is to generate other avenues of engagement with North Korea, and I think that as it's mentioned on the Olympic Truce sort of website, they talk about the capacity for sport to build bridges between countries, and the goal of that Olympic Truce movement is to do just that. So it can have certainly a positive effect in terms of relations between North Korea and South Korea and the international community.
Could sports play a pivotal part in perhaps facilitating productive cross-border exchanges, Don?
Well, yes, certainly. Sports would be very important in facilitating certain exchanges, but let's not get too carried away by that. There was the famous Berlin Olympics of 1936, I think, followed soon by World War II. And there was the Sarajevo Winter Olympics, many years later, which was also followed by severe warfare. So, we can all say, oh, this will bring peace and light and everybody will be getting along better as a result. Well, for the duration of the games, they might be. But these tremendous big power conflicts, North-South conflict and so forth, might simply nullify the goodwill generated by the game. So let's not get too hopeful on that score either. But nevertheless, we can always hope.
Right. Frank, in your opinion, what are some efforts that Seoul could make to ensure safe and successful hosting of the PyeongChang Winter Olympics next year?
I think the government's doing really everything they can, just trying to cool down what we've seen happen between the U.S. and North Korea. I think that's the most important thing. And maybe, develop some contacts with other like-minded countries around the world, allies of the United States, nonetheless, that feel that, engaging in a military conflict on the Korean Peninsula obviously is a bad idea, and threatening North Korea is a bad idea. Let's just try to calm things down a little bit, get ourselves through the games, and perhaps that, again, that relative calm can generate, other avenues of engagement or negotiations even between the two countries.
In this next report, we travel beyond national boundaries to take a look at the impact of sports diplomacy around the world.
Sports can influence various aspects of politics, culture and economy, and can also be seen as a form of diplomacy. The ping-pong diplomacy between the US and China in the 1970s is considered to be the hallmark of sports diplomacy. In 1971, the US national team, which participated in the 31st World Table Tennis Championships in Japan, was invited to Beijing to take part in a friendly match against China. Through this event, the US and China laid the foundation of their bilateral ties, eventually establishing formal diplomatic relations in 1979. Cricket diplomacy, where India and Pakistan used the sport of cricket to foster a climate of peace, is also a notable case of sports diplomacy. Also, another example of sports diplomacy that will long be remembered is the united team between South and North Korea at the World Table Tennis Championships in 1991. Meanwhile, the world's largest and biggest sporting event, the Olympic Games, has become a platform for the expression of political opinions and improved diplomatic relations. In 1976, more than 20 African nations declared they would not participate in the Montreal Summer Olympics in protest of South Africa's apartheid policy. In Australia, an Australian Aboriginal athlete was given the honour of being the final torchbearer at the Sydney Olympic Games in 2000, a symbol of reconciliation in the conflict between the Aboriginals and white Australians. Also, the Sydney Summer Games were quite meaningful for both Koreas. That was because for the first time since the South-North Joint Declaration in June 15, 2000, the two Koreas marched together as one at the opening ceremony. Since then, the two Koreas have walked together at the Busan Asian Games in 2002, the Athens Olympics in 2004, and the Torino Winter Olympic Games in 2006. The Moon Jae-in administration wants the power of sports diplomacy to be leveraged in the currently strained inter-Korean relations through the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games next year.
바라근대 최초로 남북 단일팀을 구성하여 최고의 성적을 거두었던 1991년 세계 탁구 선수권 대회와 세계 청소년 축구 대회의 영광을 다시 보고 싶습니다. 남북 선수단 동십장으로 세계인의 발수가채를 받았던 2000년 시드니 올림픽의 감동을 다시 느껴보고 싶습니다.
Sports have become an important and useful tool in international diplomacy. We look forward to the utilization of sports as a diplomatic tool to bring down barriers around the world and promote peace.
Now, we just saw ping pong diplomacy, basketball diplomacy, and that of cricket. What is the most impressive form of sports diplomacy that you remember? We'll start with you, Frank.
For me, it's not going to be diplomacy, but it's going to be political activism. And I go back to, the 1968 Olympics, where you had a couple of athletes that were winning a couple of medals hold their black fists in the air, black gloves in the air, to demonstrate against the racial and income and wealth gap. So I remember that incident in particular in terms of historically.
And we'll get back to that, because my next question was going to be about making political statements at these international sporting events. But first, Koichi, again, what in your memory was an impressive display of sports diplomacy?
Of course, ping-pong diplomacy between Japan, China, US in 1971. At that time, Japan invited Chinese team and US team to Nagoya Prefecture, and during the match, Chinese team invited US team to visit China, and they accepted. So, and after these US teams visit, President Nixon decided to send Henry Kissinger, secretly send him to prepare for his presidential visit to China. So it was massive thing, and I'm kind of proud that, Japanese, one small university in Nagoya Prefecture played a huge role. Yeah.
I see. What about you, Don?
Well, we've seen the politicization of sports recently in the U.S. with American football players taking the knee, that is, on their knees instead of standing up when the American national anthem is played. I think we could see some repetition of that kind of thing during these Olympics.
Staying with that, South Korean footballer Park Jong-woo was barred from receiving his bronze medal at the London Olympics in 2012 for displaying a sign that read "Dokdo is our territory." What are your thoughts, Frank, again, of making political statements at international sporting events?
Well, I have a couple of feelings about this. In democracies and many countries around the world aspire to be democratic and enable free speech. And when you're telling somebody that they can't enjoy that, you're infringing on their human rights. At the same time, athletes are in the entertainment business, and they have public relations responsibilities.
Which is why some critics are claiming that these international sporting events are simply a festival for just the rich.
That's true. And when you look at the players that are and athletes that are winning the gold medals and scoring goals and things like that, they're more representative of that global South and people of color. So I disagree with trying to curtail the free speech of athletes. As much as I might disagree with what they say or that type of behavior, I feel that they should be free to do what they want to do. And that includes taking a knee when the American national anthem is being played, or the Canadian national anthem is being played, or pulling off a shirt with some political slogan on it that might be abhorrent to me. Your test of free speech is when somebody says something you disagree with.
Koichi, what are your thoughts about linking politics and sports?
I think it's wrong to do something for athlete. It's wrong to do something provoke anger within the stadium. All the people in the stadium come to enjoy the sports event. So I think it's not a good way to enjoy sports. Yeah, expressing political message. Athletes should express their political message outside of stadium. That's fine, but within the stadium, they should.
I agree. I kind of think sort of make statements if they want to before and after the events that they want to if a Korean athlete wants to say that Dokdo belongs to Korea, he can say that, you know. But I don't think that it really is helpful in the actual award ceremony, you know. And it's irrelevant. The award ceremony, the awards are given for winning or coming in second or third in an athletic competition. They're not as related to these political problems. However, if the Korean athlete wants to say, you know, wants to talk about Dokdo, you know, let him, you know. But I don't think the ceremony is the place for it.
Now, regardless of the negative rap surrounding these international sporting events, regardless of all that, the Olympics, the spirit of the Olympics, it's about promoting harmony and peace around the world through sports. Now, do you see international sporting events as, like the Olympics, serving as a platform for international collaboration also in the future, Frank?
Sure, absolutely. I think the Olympics are great, and sport, you know, again, can be an avenue through which countries can engage each other and come to a better understanding of each other and develop a certainly a more positive relationship if they have some type of conflicts or antagonism going on in the political arena. And I would encourage countries to pursue that avenue of exchange and engagement, especially North and South Korea, and the invitation of North Korean athletes to come to the Olympic Games. I do hope that's taken up.
Koichi, what are your views?
Well, yeah, if I go back to 1971, the US team didn't bring any political message to China. Just only diplomacy followed their path. So sports has a power to open a path or open a window, and if go through that window or not is I think politicians' decision. And I'm hoping that, you know, next year's PyeongChang Olympic, Prime Minister Abe and Chairman Xi Jinping will, I hope they will come to PyeongChang and start some meaningful dialogue between these three countries.
It would be really interesting to see these leaders of these major powers actually showing up. I wonder though, what if President Trump showed up? Okay, I'm sure he's going to say this is the greatest event and this is an amazing event, but then he might say something else that would be definitely political. About North Korea, about China, about South Korea.
I think we'll find out. I think he's scheduled to come for a summit here in November, so we'll find out. Maybe we'll get a little bit of clue of what type of Olympic reception he might get during that summit visit.
Right. Well, Korea is scheduled to hold the Winter Olympics in PyeongChang next February. What will end the program with a few words from you to the organizing committee, perhaps, about what you expect to see in the Olympics this year. We'll start with you, Frank.
You know, I expect to see every country that's scheduled to participate come, and hopefully some athletes from North Korea as well, and South Korea to put on a friendly face for the international community. It did so, I believe, in the 1988 Olympics, and I think that'll happen again.
Koichi.
Well, I applied for a pass, and so I'm going there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all the games
and hopefully a chance to interview a North Korean athlete.
Yeah, sure.
North Korea attends. Don.
Well, I'm sure that the South Korean hosts will go absolutely all out to make sure that the games are safe, secure, and go smoothly. They're already very much involved in the whole process. So I'm sure that they'll be capable of making the games really work. And but frankly, one concern of mine is quite unpolitical. What's the snow going to be like? Will there be enough snow? Okay, they put a lot of artificial snow. They can definitely have these great events in the snow. But it would be really nice if the snow fell in record quantities before and during the Olympics. That's always been a concern of mine. I know at the Nagano Olympics that was a problem.
Oh, it was a big problem actually in the Vancouver Olympics.
Was it a problem?
So, oh yeah, they had to truck in a whole bunch of snow for the Vancouver Olympics, but they pulled it off.
There's ways of making snow, so don't worry. The ski jumps and everything else will work. They will happen. But it would be nice if real snow were there, a lot of real snow.
To lobby Mother Nature.
You know what? I've skied on South Korean slopes. They have a lot of snowmakers. Like, you know, in Canada, I was a skier in Vancouver, and we had trouble with snow quite frequently. And they would have the odd, you know, snowblower and the odd, you know, the technology wasn't as good as it was then. But I visited PyeongChang as well and saw all the snow machines like lined up and ready to go. And skiing on it, you can't really notice the difference. I think it's probably, maybe the athletes will notice the difference. So, like Don, I hope they do get some natural snow.
And I'll keep my fingers crossed as well. Well, come early next year, following its hosting of the Winter Olympics in PyeongChang, Korea will have hosted all 4 major international sporting events, including the Summer Olympics, the World Cup, and the World Athletics Championships, becoming the 6th nation in the world to hold such an honor. Thank you for watching.